Hey, hey. Oh, my hair's wild. Wednesday. And still haven't seen oil spike. Getting a little fed up with it, but we'll get into all that and more tonight. A lot of things happening out there, big things happening for crypto, some exciting things happening for crypto. I don't know if you guys saw or not, but today, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac said that they will allow you to use your crypto holdings as part of your network to qualify for a home loan. They want to look at your balance sheet. They want to look at your cash flow. They want to look at your other financial documents that you would normally present. We just got our lease agreement on an office here in Dallas. They wanted to see, 2 years worth of financials, balance sheet, all that stuff. And crypto can now be part of that, which is pretty cool. So excited to see that development. I think that's a big move forward here for a lot of people in this space that have significant holdings that do want to purchase a home in the near future, especially on the other side of price appreciation. I know a person, here in Dallas, it's a good friend, and he's had a lot of trouble getting loans from the banks, but he has the majority of his net worth in Bitcoin and XRP and other digital assets. And so it's been frustrating for him, because on paper to the bank, he looks broke. But in reality, he's worth, $40–50 million or more. And there's just a huge discrepancy there between the value and what these assets provide and what they're willing to see as valuable or as an asset on your balance sheet. So pretty cool to see Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac say that they will allow you to do that. I don't know that, there's a lot of memes out there about fart coin and like some of these meme coins being used as collateral or a part of your balance sheet to be able to qualify for a mortgage loan. I'm sure that they're probably going to contain it to the top, 50 tokens. I think there was some discussion in that the document that they rolled out that talks about market cap and what is reasonable for these assets. So Doge probably qualifies though. If you got a big old bag of Doge coin or Litecoin or some of these other tokens that are in the top 50, they have a decent enough market cap. I might as well, put it on there, stack it up, show the bank what you got, and hopefully you can qualify for that mortgage that you've been looking to get post moon, which I do think a lot of people will. I know I will be one of them, upgrading the living situation. I've lived very cheap for a long time, trying to stack as much as we possibly can to take advantage of this once in a lifetime opportunity for digital assets. And I'm sure many of you have done the same, script buy, ramen, stacked everything that you could in some of these assets while you can at a low cost basis before they appreciate substantially, and you can borrow against them, you can put them to work, you can leverage them in a lot of different ways to produce income for yourself. A lot of those strategies Digital Wealth Partners is working on. If you're just tuning in for the first time, my name is Jake Claver. I'm managing director and CEO for Digital Ascension Group. We are a multifamily office that specializes in digital assets. So if you make, $20, $50, $100 million in crypto, we provide all the professional services that you might need when that happens. I was fortunate enough to come into a decent chunk of change in crypto in 20 and 21, sought all these people out for myself. And then after talking on social media, I found out that nobody else had really orchestrated anything like this, specifically for crypto anyway. And if they did, they definitely weren't talking about it in an open forum. And anyway, people were nice enough to make some introductions, and I started consulting. And now we have a full functioning family office. So CPAs, accountants, wealth management, legal, tax attorneys, and an SEC registered RIA that manages close to $500 million, primarily in XRP, which is pretty cool. And we've got specific strategies there, two that are currently almost full. One produces income for people, one compounds their XRP, a couple different strategies and partnerships that we've been able to orchestrate there. There's no counterparty risk in those strategies, which was my main concern. Hopefully talking to Doppler Finance in the near future about how we can integrate with them and what that would look like. I've had Hugo on the show. We've talked about that with Flair. We want to be the bridge, want to be the conduit that allows traditional wealth managers and the normal people doing this to bridge over to DeFi and Web3 and these digital assets. And we'll create all the tools and what it looks like to do it in a regulated way with a very high standard is what we're trying to do, trying to set in the space. So anyway, if that sounds, and if any of that sounds interesting to you, and you want your assets held in institutional custody, insured, bankruptcy remote, segregated, never commingled, or at risk of loss, then you could reach out to Digital Wealth Partners. Just go to digitalwealthpartners.net and yeah, use the contact us form. Minimums, because I know people are going to ask, and fees. Minimums on that are going to be at least 100,000 XRP. And the other qualifier is $500,000 in total portfolio value for your digital assets. If you meet either one of those criteria, we would love to work with you and provide all the services that we have. Fees are, we do AUM fee, but we don't take any fees beyond that until we generate you 8% in addition to the returns on your crypto, on your total portfolio. So what does that mean? You made these investments. We did not advise you on these investments. We are not entitled to any upside on the XRP, the XLM, the HBAR, the Algorand, the XDC, the Bitcoin, the ETH, the Sol, the Matic, the Chainlink, whatever you bought that you bring over and hold in institutional custody with us. Those were your investments. So you get all the upside on that. We have to provide additional services or products that generate an additional 8% beyond what your initial portfolio balance was or the total number of assets. The accounting on this is difficult, just so you guys are aware. Like, it's never been done before. We put this together in a way where other RIAs don't operate like this, but also other RIAs don't take assets in kind. We're the only people that do that. All the other RIAs only take cash. And that's why traditional wealth managers tell people, sell your crypto and bring your cash over here, and then we can work with you. We don't do that. We provide you all the benefits that you want from an institutional custodian standpoint, and all the other, partnerships that you might want for leverage to be able to borrow against your digital assets, or lines of credit, or tools to be able to generate yield or returns on your assets. Yield's not quite there yet, but we're pretty close. We got some pretty interesting partnerships that will come out in the next 30, 40 days here, that we'll be able to disclose and talk about, and products that we're going to bring to market that I'm excited about. People that you might know that we're working with. And anyway, NDA's there, so I can't say a whole lot about that. But if we make you more than 8%, in addition to the upside on your assets, then we go 80-20 on anything after that. But if you're familiar with like real estate deals, most of the time you get paid a pref or preferred return in a real estate deal. Most of the time it's somewhere between 8 and 10%. So the first 8 and 10% that's generated on the deal goes to the investors. Normally in a real estate deal, the next 2% after that for returns goes to the GP as a catch-up. We don't do a catch-up. There is no catch-up. The first 8%, in addition to any appreciation on your assets, always goes to the client. So we do have AUM fees, though. So those are the only fees we charge. We do 2% on anything less than 5 million. 5 to 10 million, we go to 50 basis points, which is 0.5%. I know basis points can be confusing. And then anything north of 10 million in total portfolio value, we drop that down to 40 basis points, or 40% of 1%. So just to do the math quick in your head, on $10 million, if we are managing that and working with somebody, that's $40,000 a year that we would charge them. Roughly $3,300 a month would be the cost for that. And that covers the insurance. The insurance is up to $100 million on your assets per account. There at Anchorage. Anchorage does custody BlackRock's ETFs and all of the assets that are the spot ETFs for them. They are our custodian as well for our clients. You would not be able to get an account with them if you're not working with us. either as a high net worth individual or retail investor. They will only work with businesses, and so we do require that all of our clients set up an LLC or a trust or an IRA in order to be able to work with us. But and if you were big enough, you could probably, like Jack Dorsey, I think there's a rumor that he has his stuff there, but he got in Bitcoin super early. So if you're a billionaire, probably go direct, but you're also not going to get the best fees if you do it that way. Because of the AUM that we manage, we'll be able to pass additional, cost savings on to all of the partners and clients that we have. So anyway, rambling on here, and we'll go ahead and hop into the questions because that's what you guys are here for. But just wanted to give a quick overview for people that may not be familiar with me. I know we have a lot of new people here on YouTube and X, and also over here on TikTok. So if that's anything that you think would be interesting, again, we would love to work with you. So go ahead and hop into the questions here. We've got Samuel Boyd. What's going on? They say, hey, Jake, with Fed housing, yep. Ordering Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to allow crypto as an asset applying for a mortgage. How will that work if I want a house and crypto is in the LLC? Thank you. So it's still on your balance sheet. You own the LLC that owns the assets. So again, if you own a business and you're applying for a mortgage, you have income off that business. If you pay yourself a W-2 or you pay yourself dividends or there are returns, that's going to show up on your cash flow statement and your balance sheet for the assets that you own. So hopefully you've got a CPA that can put all that stuff together for you, or an accountant that does. If you don't, again, those are all things that we can do. If you're working with Digital Family Office or Digital Ascension Group, we provide all those services. So that's an easy one for us. We use SoftLedger as our accounting software. If people want to use QuickBooks, we can use QuickBooks. Sage Interact is another one. Actually building a pretty interesting piece of software that we're going to roll out here in the next 45 days for family office clients, that'll aggregate the view on their total software platforms across everything. So whether that's document management or the reporting or the accounting, all the professionals and the way that they communicate across your family and who you're working with, all that'll be aggregated there in one centralized hub for you, which makes it super simple to navigate and review your financials every day, see your cash flow and your balance sheet and all that stuff. So anyway, we'd have those documents ready for you to be able to pull them at almost any time and be able to share that with the bank if you wanted that mortgage. AJ with the super chat, brother. Thank you so much. Starting off super strong, man. Thank you. He says, what's your take on the Federal Housing Authority allowing crypto to be used as an asset for single family loans? And what are your thoughts on the Genius and Clarity Act being paired and passed? Excuse me. I think it will happen, and it's a great thing maybe before August. I think the Genius Act for sure. Stablecoin bill will absolutely get passed before August. Clarity Act, I'm not so sure. If they package them both together, then sure. Clarity Act is more about what is a tokenized security, a securities offering in crypto, an ICO, how to come to market with that. Those are still some things that we're kind of going over with the Digital Chamber and the proposal that we're putting to the SEC. So to have Congress putting together a bill that would kind of define that, it's actually very helpful. But I think the Clarity Act could end up getting pushed to 2026. But I do think that the Stablecoin bill or the Genius Act will likely make it through here before August. Now, on the Federal Housing Authority, again, super big deal for those, I accidentally just didn't start the live over here on TikTok until I realized I talked about it, and I was like, press the live. It's Wednesday, it's late. I do think, it's a really big deal for people, especially if you have large holdings in crypto. You're going to want to be able to use that in order to get a mortgage. A lot of, like I mentioned at the beginning of this, a lot of people have foregone getting a new home for an extended period of time, which, kind of has worked out. Homes have gone up in value significantly since 2020. and a lot of things that happened that year. Plus, you know, they printed so much money, and interest rates are up now in comparison to where they were. I do think the Fed is going to have to lower interest rates, but if they do, then that's just going to add costs to homes. So if your crypto holdings appreciated substantially, you're not going to care a whole lot about that. You're probably going to want the better interest rate. So those are kind of my opinions and timelines and what I think is going to happen. Again, I don't have a crystal ball. I'm just some guy on the internet. I do happen to have cool conversations with cool people in the industry that allude to certain things, or sometimes, you know, the way that I discern, this is, I don't know if it's good or bad, but I've worked in sales a long time. And so I'm decent at reading people. I'm not always perfect, but sometimes I'll ask questions just to see the visceral response that people give, even if I know they can't answer it. I just want to see if they smile or they like step back, or like what their initial body language shows about the topic, even if I know they can't say anything on it. And so there's just been a lot of conversations with different counterparties over the years, including R3 and Ripple and three-letter agencies and banks and MasterCard and Visa, where I asked or just mentioned certain things in the conversation just to see what the counterparty would say or do. And again, most of the time they have NDAs, they can't say anything, but facial expressions, movements, body language, like I said, it says a lot about something, whether they say it verbally or not. So go on to the next one here. We got Alan. He says, hey, Jake, what would be the reason for someone living in California to create an LLC in Wyoming for their cryptocurrency? Good question. Anonymity is going to be the main benefit there, and the regulations there in Wyoming if somebody were to sue you. So California is going to require that we file reciprocity from Wyoming with that state, because you do reside there. They're going to get their taxes. It's what they want. Now, publicly, if anybody were to go to look up the LLC filed in Wyoming, they're not going to be able to discern who's associated with it, because our paralegal firm that does all the filings for us, they are who is going to appear on that document. Not your name, not your address, not anything to do with you. So it's going to be difficult for anybody to figure out just at a surface level who's associated with that corporation. People get pretty freaky and weird, especially when they figure out you have money. We have other teams that can blur your house on Zillow. They can also remove the floor plan of your house if it's been listed on Zillow. People don't think about that type of stuff, but if that's been on there, other people that are looking for you and looking to do things might go and look at that information and then put together a plan for how to execute on that and get to things. So just something to consider, you know, on the other side of price appreciation. If you do need your identity or certain things scrubbed from the internet, we have a couple different teams we're working with where we can provide that service. But again, the main benefit there in California is the anonymity component, in addition to the regulatory environment there in Wyoming versus California. Somebody sues you in California, which I feel like is much more likely than here in Texas or some other jurisdictions, fairly liberal over there. There's pockets, right? Like, I know it's the bigger cities. I know that the outskirts are primarily a little bit more normal, not quite as, anyway, less likely, right? But that there's a circumstance. You could rear end somebody could fall on your property. You could be justified in getting sued. You could do something stupid to somebody else. Okay, people don't plan on getting sued, but it happens. And if that were to take place, if your LLC is in Wyoming and you've maintained the corporate veil and you've done all the stuff that you should be doing, I had an interview with Aaron Young. If you haven't checked that out, I would go check it out. He owns Laughlin Associates, which is our paralegal firm that we work with to maintain the integrity of the corporate veil and the compliance associated with that. And Anyway, the worst they can do is put a charging order against that LLC, similar to Nevada. They wouldn't be able to actually liquidate your assets or take them from you. Whereas if you leave it in your personal name there in California, you're going to get raked for the taxes either way. You might as well get some additional protections. And if you decide to move out of California, you've already got that LLC, somewhere else held away. And you would just let them know that you're no longer residing here and you won't be paying taxes to the state of California anymore. They're weird. They can come after you for like 10 years. There's a bunch of stuff. New York and California are both are not my favorite. But that's also why you want to do it there in Wyoming, to get it away from California, or at least have arm's length. So, and then there's insurance policies you can set up because you have key employee, you're a key employee of the business. So there's insurable interest there. You could pare down the total value of the assets if you did want to move it into a trust and gift it out of your taxable estate to a trust in a different jurisdiction that's not going to have to pay the state tax in there in California. There's just so many different strategies and things that you can do to protect the assets if they're inside of a corporation versus your personal name. And again, if you want your assets in institutional custody, they're going to have to be inside of a corporation, a trust, or an IRA. So hopefully that answers your question. It may have been a softball, and I appreciate these are burning questions a lot of people have, so happy to get on here and answer them. We got Silverado, man, Chevy. That's what I'm talking about, bro. I know people are going to be like, what? My wife's big into Fords. I've been Chevy for forever. So, and then there are going to be people that are Dodge that hate on me for that. That's fine. That's fine. I'm not a big car guy. I've just always driven Chevys. What's your thought on Watcher Guru's post from a little bit ago stating that Swift and Ripple were nearing an agreement to use XRP cross-border payments and then deleting it shortly after? That's happened before also. I think it's true. Like not financial advice. I didn't do my disclaimer. I need to have something roll across the top here with everything else, but anything stated here are not the opinions of Digital Wealth Partners or their employees. All opinions and things stated here on this in this forum are my own opinions and are not affiliated with the companies that I run. Also, anything here is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. Please always work with your own financial advisor before making any investment decisions. If you need an investment advisor that can help you with crypto, you can always work with Digital Wealth Partners, which I own. So anyway, I think it's true. I think it's coming. I think that people are highly people think Chainlink is going to be what settles Swift transactions. CCIP is great. Don't get me wrong. It's great for moving data between counterparties and across chains. It's a great oracle, but it's not for the settlement of value. It's clunky for that. It's not the thing. Hedera is great too, also for security and data protection and HIPAA compliance and segmentation of data. Also, it can be used for settlement, but fees on that network may actually end up being higher because they're dollar denominated versus using XRP. And they have a similar throughput, right? So, and again, the XRPL is the second ever blockchain launched. It's been trialed for 13 years at this point with the banks. Tested, true, never been down. It's paused a few times. There have been a few times where the network is paused, but it's never gone down. Can operate offline. There's a bunch of different benefits to the XRPL. They're only getting more and more robust as they add these additional amendments for KYC, AML, credentials, AMMs, liquidity pools, permissioned domains, all the other stuff that's currently on the docket and has already been passed are stuff the banks want. They need it for legal and compliance. So pretty confident at this point that it's very, to the people that are paying attention, it's very apparent that the XRPL will be the majority of what settles value globally on the back end for institutions and enterprises. in the near future, but most people aren't paying attention, or they have. And again, I just want to state this: I have biases. You see what shirt I have on, okay? So if you're listening to this and you don't agree with me, that's okay. I don't mind, as long as the debate's respectful. I will go back and forth with people. And again, I probably have a little bit of different perspective than the majority, just because I've been really blessed, and I'm super grateful to have been in a position to be able to interact with some of these different counterparties that not everybody gets access to. I want to comment on a deal I posted yesterday. So Upbit, Binance, and Bitstamp all had a significant drop in the amount of available XRP on their platforms for trading. And people said, oh, it was just a glitch for the APIs. I don't think so. And the recourse a lot of people had against, my post that said a supply shock was incoming, was they looked at the wallets on chain and saw that the values of those wallets were still full and hadn't changed. And on the surface, that seems like a very good argument. Unfortunately, all of these exchanges and institutions have an accounting ledger that lies on top of their wallets. I know this because we work with Anchorage, we work with all these exchanges. They have omnibus accounts, and this is how they account for the XRP and know which one belongs to you, how much belongs to you, what's in your account. And they can change the amount of what's available in that wallet for retail and on their exchange for sale, irrespective of the wallet's amount actually changing. So there's another layer to this that, again, I understand people's ignorance on it, but I don't like is when people come at me with an ego that don't understand something and accuse me of being wrong and not doing research before I put things out. And I'm not ever going to be ugly to anybody, but I will hold the line and explain to you, I will teach you what is actually going on and why it makes sense. If I post something, it's not just going to be because I said so type thing. I hate when people do that. Rather teach a person to fish than feed them. So anyway, that is, why that made sense to me is because, again, those internal ledgers that are the accounting or the back end for all these institutions and exchanges, they can determine how much is available, even though the wallet amounts haven't changed. So got a bunch of people on here. We got Off the Grid Hero with a couple different ones. He said, we thinking August, July, $20. It all depends on the catalyst, man. If we don't get anything, it's just going to sit here at $2. If we get some ETFs, yeah, absolutely, $20 all day long. If we get a supply shock, the reverse carry trade unwinding, Tether blowing up, BTC crumbling, along with the ETFs, Treasury, the NDAs expiring for the Ripple case, Ripple settlement that allows that. The judge rules that Ripple can't sell their XRP that comes onto the market to institutions. There's just a ton of reasons that there could be a significantly greater move to the upside than $20. But if it was just the ETFs launching, sure. This person's asked like 15 times over here, what's safe wallet? Safe wallet's not a question. Silly questions get silly answers. So I don't understand your question. If you could give me a good question, then I will answer it. What account balance to join Digital Ascension Group? Need to work with Digital Wealth Partners, which is the SEC registered RIA, to manage your digital assets. It's at least 100,000 XRP or at least $500,000 in current digital asset value. They said, which cold wallet do I recommend? Decent is who we're an affiliate for. That's what I used when I used a cold wallet. I think they have a really good product. It's a UBI. It is a biometric to sign the wallet. So your thumbprint is great. You can add a 25th seed phrase. The UI is really interactive and intuitive, and they have the largest breadth of assets to be able to hold, all in one spot. So that's why I like Decent. So if you're looking for a cold wallet, if you don't have at least 100,000 XRP to be able to work with us, I think that's the next best thing. Talking to a group here in Dallas that's going to be launching a wallet very similar to, I don't even know if I want to say. I'm going to leave it. I'm going to wait because I don't even want to alert the other party to what's coming. So I'm going to play it close to the vest. But once there's another wallet that has some insurance and some other benefits, I will be talking about that more regularly on here and potentially have the CEO of that company on also. We got Metaverse Con, Space Con, Earth, all on XRP, 100K plus. Yeah. If you, econ, so the economy. I've talked about this before, Off Grid Hero, and you probably are kind of alluding to this. So, 2030, Elon thinks that we'll have colonized Mars. I know how sci-fi this crazy stuff sounds, but if Elon says it, I'm not going to doubt him. That dude, like, if he says he's going to do something, he does it. He's kind of like Trump. Like, I'm going to bet against him type deal. Might not like him all the time, but I'm not going to bet against him. So in that circumstance, you've got all these additional economies that have even greater value than we have today. You've got metaverses that are likely pretty prevalent at that point. You've got digital economies that don't exist today that'll have additional value, their own currencies that allow you to transact in those ecosystems. And all that's going to have to be settled through some trusted intermediary or network. And these may even have other financial markets that don't exist today. Maybe there's new commodities. Maybe there's other types of financial products, collateralized debt obligations, or other things that are created in that time frame as well. All of that stuff is going to need to be able to be settled and tokenized. And if that did end up on the XRPL, and I think there's a high likelihood that it would, then it's reasonable to think that XRP could be 6 digits, 10 years from now, maybe less. Just depends on the acceleration of the adoption of this technology and those other economies, and how much of that is tokenized and how long that takes, right? There's a lot of constraints there that could make it take a lot longer, or protract that if things were to get expedited by AI and the build out of stuff. So very interesting thought, and you can pontificate on that for a long time, but I digress. We'll go ahead and move on to the next question. Here we got 2 things to know. They say, JC, once enrolled, still need a separate bank account. Yeah, Anchorage doesn't have a full suite of banking functionality yet. They're working on it. Gonna have a different party on next Friday on the podcast to talk about a strategic partnership with them for their banking services for our clients. Somebody else that like, and love. And we'll see, what that kind of leads to. But yeah, I would have a separate bank account for your LLC, just so that if you do need to off-ramp, like let's say you're going to sell a portion of your XRP or borrow against it, and you want to send a wire and be able to use that income, or it wouldn't be income, it would be the debt that you borrowed if you borrow against it. Capital gains would be capital gains or income, depending on how long you'd held the asset. Then yeah, I would go ahead and set one up, and I would try to get something pretty high end. We work with Chase for our business accounts, a lot of them. We got 3 different banks that we work with across the entities that we have, and Chase is pretty good with their private client stuff. So recommend that if you can get it across the line. But they, even if you don't get, one of those higher accounts that cost a bunch of money, I think it's like $100 a month if you don't keep certain minimums in the account. Then, you just want to let them know that you're going to be liquidating a large amount out of some of your alternative investments here in the near future, and that you're going to be using those funds out of that account. And so if you let them know ahead of time and you move some money through that account and it's seasoned in, your 3 or 6 months worth of banking history, then it's a lot less likely that you're going to get those funds frozen on the other side of price appreciation if you're moving large values through there. We got Arbidar. They say, hey, Jake, what's going on the live Monday? You mentioned that you've been following an X account that you thought might be Arthur Brito before he showed up the other day. Can you share which account that was? I don't know if I should or not. Why not? I don't know this, but if I had to guess, and again, there was posts made years ago that alluded to this, so it could be wrong. This account is not overly active, but it's Merlin XRP on Twitter. So don't everybody go follow it at one time. Arthur Brito's got like 69,000 followers in 2 days or something. But Merlin XRP, interesting, if you think about King Arthur and his wizard friend Merlin, if you watch King Arthur the movie, which is actually like the top post on there, posted that on like April 2nd of 2020 or 2021. That account's been around for a long time, and it's one of those Riddler accounts. It's not like anything tangible. There's really no, if you go back through there, there's some interesting verbiage around like certain individuals and last names that did end up coming to fruition. It also, that account made the prediction that XRP wouldn't go up until after the Queen's death, which the Queen did then die after that statement was made. So there was some interesting things posted years ago through that account that actually came to fruition. And that's why I give it any of the credence that I do. And it went back and forth with XRPP, if you guys know who that is, a couple times about Arthur Brito. And he would laugh when, he would say he was Arthur Brito. That account would just laugh because I think it is Arthur Brito behind it. Anyway, I've been on X too long. I don't know if you guys have that same experience, but if you've been here since 2020, there's been so many accounts come and go and people come and go in the XRP community. And then there's been a lot of people that have stayed. There's a lot of OGs that are still here that watch these lives and are in the mastermind, and we've worked with for a long time, years at this point. And I think that's the other cool part about kind of what we've been able to build and accomplish in the time frame is we're part of the XRP family. We've been here the whole time. We haven't gone anywhere. I've never pivoted or like lost hope or belief in XRP. I've seen other people that have just become jaded and thought things would happen sooner and are burnt and tired and become jaded, I guess is the best way to put it. And they start to talk poorly about XRP or Ripple or the community, and they turn on people, even though at one point they were super bullish. Sad to see that people lose conviction just because they don't have the patience for things to manifest over time. But anyway, we're participating in this with you guys. Almost everybody that works at our corporation holds a pretty significant amount of XRP. We believe in it. You guys know I do. It's the only thing I own in my personal portfolio. And again, nothing here is financial advice. Just talking about my personal situation. And if that influences you, that's your own prerogative. I did not state that you should go do anything additional or make a purchase. Just talking about my personal stuff. But anyway, on that topic, it's been cool to actually build this for the community and build the products and services that we have and do it in a very high level way and kind of set the standard for others that'll follow along. And we're starting to see that. We're starting to see other IAs that have some interest. We're starting to see family offices want to dip their toe in the water and have more conversations with us. Other institutions are starting to, look around the corner at what we're doing, participate in our events that we're putting on for the educational component. And it's been really cool to see, that especially with the change in administration, a lot of that pressure has kind of been alleviated. And now people are able to come in and they want to figure out how they can get involved and, provide these services. So again, just been really cool to be a part of it and super blessed. And none of that would be possible without you guys, right? Like if we didn't have fantastic clients to work with that wanted to work with us, then we can't scale, we can't make revenue, I can't hire people, we can't build these products and services. So kudos to you guys for having the willingness to work with us on all this. And again, if we didn't have a fantastic community that wanted this stuff, then it wouldn't make sense for us to do it. So just want to say I appreciate you guys coming and hanging out with me and those that are clients. It really does mean a lot, the trust that you guys have in us. So speaking of clients, we got Rob. How are you, sir? He says, you are not the man that they think you are at all. Oh, no, no, no. You're a rocket man. With regard to exchanges not having any XRP, any update on that? I haven't seen liquidity come back. I know a lot of people anticipate, Ripple's going to release a portion of their escrow here July 1. And there are a few wallets that tends to go to. If Judge Torres comes out before the end of the month and maintains the injunction against Ripple in her ruling, they will no longer be allowed to do that. And it will be it'll be a supply shock, similar to the escrow. When they put the assets in escrow in 2017, that caused a significant run on XRP. If that supply that has been feeding those exchanges and the institutions and the dark pools and the OTC counters dries up because Ripple is no longer able to take that escrow out to the market and sell it in that capacity, and there's a significant demand for XRP all at the same time, you're going to get that supply shock that I've been talking about. And I think the exchanges know that's coming. And that's why they are starting to hoard the XRP for themselves on their internal accounting. Even though, again, the wallets haven't changed. If you look at Uphold, you can go to XRP Scan and you can put in the name of the exchange that you want to go look up, okay? And it'll pull up all the wallets that are associated with that exchange. Most of them have multiple wallets. I think Uphold has like 12 wallets. Only 1 or 2 of those wallets do they ever actually trade anything out of for the public. And they can portion off however much they want of that actually is available on the exchange for sale. So if they wanted to constrict supply at the exchange level because they knew that they weren't going to get any more of the escrow from Ripple on this next drop because Judge Torres was going to leave that injunction in place, then they would restrict that supply and keep it for themselves. And I think that's what you're starting to see. I could be wrong about that. Again, I'm speculating here. I'm trying to look into my crystal ball that people think I have. And again, I have biases, so take it with a grain of salt. I want a supply shock to happen because it will cause XRP to appreciate, and I'm looking forward to the utility. I've had to send some wires this week, and just moving money around and the frictions that exist in the system are going to be so much better on the other side of the implementation of this technology. The latency and the fees and everything else are just going to be, significantly different. So excited about that. And obviously the price appreciation, just like everybody else. We got ROT Corp. What's up, man? They say legend. You guys are killing me with that, but I love it. Heard about a hack last week that exposed millions of Microsoft accounts. Was it CrowdStrike? Was that one? I got an email, and my Microsoft account threatened blackmail if I didn't send $1,350 to Litecoin wallet. Oh, geez. If somebody tries to blackmail you or coerce you into sending money, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't fall for extortion or blackmail or any of that stuff. Hopefully you didn't do anything wrong, that they have anything on you, but that is illegal, and that you can fight it in court of law. So, and reputational damage and all that stuff. So, anyway, there's a lot of phishing out there. There's a lot of crazy stuff that goes on. Hopefully people know what a good email and a bad email is. And if you think it's a sketchy email, I will say this: people that we work with, I really do appreciate the precautions that they take. If they don't get an email like direct from me, they're like, "Does this person work at your corporation?" And they'll like message me. I'm like, "Yes, that's Tom. He works for us." Or "Yes, that's Tim. He works for us." Or "Yeah, that's from Syndicately. I sent that. It just comes from the website." You know. But people are skeptical, and I think that that's really, it's good to have a healthy level of skepticism in this space, because you don't want to give away your keys. We had somebody else get hacked today, um, and we're working on a partnership that we're curating there also with John Wingate and his team. So if you guys don't know John at Bank Social, they do help recover crypto for people, and I think there might be a product that we can put out in the near future around that. I still got to finalize some things with him, but that's going to be something that we bring to market in the near future. We got Happy Pisces. They say, "Hey, my Monday super chat didn't get addressed." I'm sorry. I try to get to all of them. I really do, and I apologize if I missed it. I print screened it. Repeat. One video you say XRP 1000 by December, and another video you say 2500 by December. Same catalyst. Why positive improvement? I say 4 digits is normally what I say. So people like just jump to the conclusion that that's $1,000, but it could be more. I think 4 digits by the end of the year, right? So is that $1,000? Is it $2,000? I don't know that it's much more than that. I don't know that it's more than 2,500. I think in that interview with Brad, he mentioned something about that specifically. He said, "I've heard people say this number," and I said, "Well, it could get to that number." Da 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 da. Right. I think that that's kind of how that played out. I could be off on that. It's been a few weeks since that interview, but I do think that both of those numbers are realistic. 4 digits for XRP on the left side of the decimal is reasonable if and only if we see all the catalysts that I've talked about in the domino theory play out. So you need a spike for oil. You need Japan to raise interest rates. You need the reverse carry trade to unwind at scale. You need all of these, foreign debt holders to dump treasuries on the market to be able to rush stablecoin regulation through, which we have in place, ready to go right now, and conflict in the Middle East. A lot of the stuff that I've talked about more than a month ago, almost a month ago now, in the domino theory, the third iteration, looks like it could definitely be playing out here. And there's been a couple other people that have copied that information and put it out for clicks, which something about people that copy you the most. It's like I can't think of the phrase, but flattery, right? Like it's the highest form of flattery when people copy you. So I'm cool with that. Again, it's not me that put this together. Jim Rickards came out with this exact scenario. I just kind of correlated to what current events are and how that could cause XRP to appreciate those levels. So anyway, the stablecoin deal gets passed. Tether has some problems because it's brought into the purview of the U.S. government. Whether that's sanctions or freezing accounts or delisting, I don't know. But then that has an impact on Bitcoin. You've got huge downward pressure across all global markets, including oil and gold and stocks and treasuries and bonds and private credit and real estate all across the board. People liquidating positions as fast as they can to be able to swap that back to yen and repay those loans to the Bank of Japan. I think you'll have limit down. I think you'll have, kind of an ICE 9 event that Jim Rickards talks about, where global markets lock up because there's not enough liquidity. And voila, you just roll out the new liquidity source, an orchestrated supply shock on it to drive it to 3 or 4 digits, whatever is going to be required to settle the back end of the stock market and kickstart the economy, reduce inflation at scale, and drive real GDP and growth. And all those things would be accomplished if they were to orchestrate a supply shock on XRP and push it to those prices where it could be used to settle global markets, including SWIFT or the back end of the stock market or commodities or FX. There's a lot of different applications. And over the long term, I think derivatives, which is another thing I talked about in that video with Brad Lee, which I think they're going to drop that video here in July, that podcast. Will things have already played out by then? I don't know, but it should be a good one when they drop it. Tereso has a go. He says, "Hey Jake, just wanted to thank you and your team and your partner for being awesome. All you go above and beyond. Hope you have a wonderful day. Like, share, subscribe, and people need to join the mastermind." Thank you. Appreciate you, Teresos. Yeah, I haven't talked about the mastermind much tonight, but if you are interested, if you do think you want to be part of a community of almost 3,500 people that have aligned interest in digital assets and want to make sure that they're being proactive and know everything that they can to set themselves up for success on the other side of price appreciation, you can go to beyondbroke.com. It's right here at the top. And you can use the code beyondbroke, the number 1, and then MO gets you a free month there in the group in social or Carbon One. Have some additional benefits for Carbon One. You can participate in the private investments that we run there in the community. In addition to the ability to borrow against your XRP, we have an exclusive partnership there that can provide liquidity. If you have your assets in a Wyoming LLC, there's no minimum. You can borrow. The LTV is 45%. So if you put up, you could do 100 XRP and get 45 back. You know, I don't know what you would need that small of a loan for, but you could do it as long as you have a Wyoming LLC. So pretty cool additional benefits there that we try to provide for the community. We also have a health share plan that's kind of like insurance. It's not quite the same thing, but it has a lot of the same benefits. So if you're old or you're an entrepreneur or you have a hard time getting insurance, that can be a good option for you and your family. And then again, we just try to bring in experts on a pretty regular basis across credit or different types of deals or private investments or ways to structure your financial portfolio or your estate or mitigating taxes. We have all those people come in and talk. Offshore trusts and insurance policies. A lot of the people that we work with the family office, we have in there, and they come in and talk about stuff. Mandy says, "Do you think XRP is in the big, beautiful bill?" I don't know. I don't know if they've rewritten it. It was not listed in the Genius Act the last time I looked. They had removed that provision about XRP being a bridge currency or having a definition for that in there. But that's not to say they can't slip it back in before the House passes it. We got Jeremiah. What's up, man? He says, "Any insights on why Coinbase and venture capital A16Z don't want the bill in the House and the Senate to be combined into one bill?" So that they can continue to speculate on ICOs and make money doing it. That's why. Both of them have a venture capital interest, and both of them make a bunch of money investing in ICOs. And so if those were regulated, that market goes away. And there's going to be other oversight on how you can custody those assets. So that's another piece. Like right now, you can hold them on a cold wallet or on an exchange or somewhere else. And a lot of time for an ICO, they don't have integrations with an institutional custodian very quickly. And so it'd be very difficult for somebody managing capital to be compliant if you had to have an institutional custodian hold those assets, because they're not interoperable and they don't list them until there's enough liquidity, or it's, you know, an easy lift like Trump coin was, because it was an ERC20 token. So yeah, there's a lot of reasons that they wouldn't want the Clarity Act passed, and they would want to kick the can on that and just have the stablecoin bill be the only thing. And I think that's what's going to happen. We got Mark. What's going on, Mark? He says, "Hey, Jake, I have my DWA Wyoming LLC. I paid onboarding fees and have my accreditation letter." Awesome, man. "And now I need to onboard and start participating in XRP growth and income funds before July 1st. Please help." So the funds are not going to be available here in July early like they normally are. I think, well, I can't, got to channel my internal compliance officer. I'd like to just speak openly about this stuff because I know what's going on, but I can't talk about it. So if you would like to know more, if you are a client, which you are, I would reach out to your advisor, and they can absolutely tell you what you need to do in order to be able to participate in the products that we're going to have in the short term. I can't speak to any individual products here on a public forum. unfortunately. And I do have to refer you to your advisor on this topic, which I think is stupid, but I have to remain in compliance. And if I don't, my team won't let me come on here and talk to you guys anymore. So I don't want that to happen. So I have to stay in my lane and refer you to your advisor. Maris says, hey, Jake, when we want to borrow against XRP, hypothetically, if we had 20 million after price appreciation, how much could I borrow? And is it in fiat legend? Appreciate you. You would be borrowing in USDC or fiat. We have multiple lenders that would extend you right now up to 55% against that. So it would be around 11 million that you could borrow against your 20 million. On the other side of price appreciation, though, I think that's going to change dramatically. We have additional partners that we're currently curating relationships with and we'll be finalizing in the next 30 or 40 days that could add additional LTV and lower interest rates for somebody that did want to borrow against their XRP that had that amount. So that's what it looks like today, but in the near future, I think that it could get much, much better. And that's what I've been talking about. You know, a lot of people say, you know, I don't want to borrow at these high rates. And I'm like, well, you're going to be able to refinance it 12 months from now at a much lower interest rate with the same collateral, kind of like your house, right? Like just use the HELOC now, take the equity out of it, and as it appreciates, you could borrow more against it. I think you'll be able to do the same thing, but at lower and lower interest rates over time as the asset continues to accrue value and has price stability and regulatory clarity. Group one, Gavin, what's up, man? He said, had a Zoom call this afternoon with one of your incredible new employees, Stefan. Awesome, dude. Glad to hear that. Who is currently assisting us. Such a kind, engaging, and helpful gem of a bloke. Very grateful. Absolutely, dude. Super excited that you're working with our team. Appreciate the kind words for Stefan. I will pass on the flowers. We always enjoy giving the employees good feedback. So I will pass that along, and I appreciate, again, your trust in us and willing to work with us. Honest Aim, what's up, man? He says, or should I just say legend? Oh, thank you, my wonderful wife.
Hey.
Thank you.
I'll say hi to you. Say hi to Jenny.
don't say his name.
I mean,
Honest Aim. There you go. He says 300 million in 7 months. Wow. You see Microsoft announcements for the 19-year research project yielding a quantum computer chip soon. Your thoughts? Thanks. Appreciate you, man. Hopefully we get to see you guys next week at the new office. It'll be good to catch up. Quantum's a real deal. You know, a couple years ago they said that was 2 or 3 years away, and now here we are. And this is another reason I think institutional custody is so imperative, because if you've exposed both of the keys on your cold wallet, when there is a quantum computer that wants to get to those assets, it's going to be able to do it. If you don't know how to rekey your wallet after every transaction, or you've already sent assets out of it somewhere, if you've only sent assets into a wallet, it should be pretty secure against a quantum computer. But if you have exposed both of those keys through, you know, sending and receiving transactions, it is possible that a quantum computer could hack it. So again, you know, on the other side of price appreciation here, that's why I think it's pretty imperative that people do get their assets into institutional custody. We don't have anything that's quantum proof yet, but very quantum resistant. The security and the way that they maintain the keys at Anchorage, they never actually pull the keys all the way back to get together when they execute a transaction, and they rekey the wallets after every transaction. And you know, there's other precautions that we put in place, working on putting whitelisted wallets in place so that if somebody did hack your wallet, the only place they can send it to is your own cold wallet. Again, just mitigating as much risk and loss as we can. But to see Microsoft come out and state that, you've got Google, you've got a lot of people working on quantum technology, and it's not surprising to me that that would be available here likely maybe even here at the end of the year, in 2025, maybe early 26, I think it's a possibility that they end up mining the rest of the Bitcoin with a quantum computer, like I've talked about before. So they could do it in like a week. They could also hack the network for Bitcoin. It's a 256-bit encryption. There are supercomputers today that could hack Bitcoin's encryption and change the transactions on the network. So pretty scary stuff. But again, hopefully many of you will have enough liquidity in the near future and want to get your assets into institutional custody. And we're here for that as a partner when you need it. Wayne, what's up, man? He says, have you noticed that there's no page on Robinhood or Coinbase that has the owner's name of the same page as account value or amounts of crypto? I noticed that on my Decent wallet also, Parallel asked for a copy for accreditation. Yeah, because on Coinbase and Robinhood, you don't own those assets. They are not yours. You are a creditor of those exchanges, and they owe those assets back to you, just like a bank. If you hold your money in a bank, you are a creditor of the bank. And if they were to go belly up and go bankrupt, you become a creditor. Same thing with these exchanges. So you should be able to print out something on the cold wallet, but it's not going to have your name on it, right? So that's the other benefit of having an account with us there at Anchorage is it's just like a bank statement for your crypto. It's verifiable. You're going to get a 1099 DA at the end of the year. It just makes it, you're on the up and up. You don't have to worry about it. If a bank asks for it or you need it for something, or your accreditation letter, then it's super simple. So again, appreciate you bringing that topic up. I think it's going to become much more prevalent, as things kind of persist here. And again, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac kind of setting the precedent that they did today. I think you're going to see other applications where you can use your crypto as, proof of reserves or capital asset to qualify for certain things. We got JM. He says, "Yo, Jake, what's up, man? Play along. You don't have enough assets for institutional custody yet. A few decents. That's it. Foolproof a plan to keep it safe for the next 5 years." What is a foolproof plan to keep it safe for the next 5 years? I get some type of multi-sig wallet. I don't know if you can add multiple signers to Decent. I don't think you can. I would get into some type of multi-sig wallet, and I would keep keys away from yourself. You might even escrow it. That's probably the way that I would do it. I would use the XRP toolkit if we're talking about XRP and escrow the XRP on chain to come back to that wallet at a later date, which I've done. I have some XRP that's going to come back to me over the next 3-4 years here that I've just locked up. And I did that early on to mitigate the risk of loss for myself. Did that for 7 years when I first bought some XRP. So that's probably the way that I would do it. If you're concerned about loss, if you really don't think it's going to appreciate, or we got to stick it out for another 5 years here, and you're concerned about quantum computers and other stuff, I would just lock it on chain to come back to you in tranches over time. Let's see here. Way up in the chat, we're already an hour in, so I'm gonna try to lightning round the rest of these. We got Raven Poe. It's like Edgar Allan Poe. I like it. They say 11/2/1917 is 589. The Balfour Declaration ties Rothschilds to Israel. 67 word. 6 + 3. 6 + 7 is 13. The thinking man travels east. Yeah. Wiseman seems like a lot is pointing that way. The Trident equals 1958, Israel, Turkey, Iran. So for people that don't know, this is a lot of gematria in here. You can put words into a calculator and it'll spit out, the numbers that equate to that. A lot of people live and die by that stuff. again, these are all like, I take everything with a grain of salt. I look at everything. There's definitely some interesting stuff there. Like I mentioned the other day, I don't think Israel wants this war to be over between them and Iran. They need the industrial military complex to continue to print money. And if they do, then you're going to get the reverse carry trade to unwind. So they're really backed into a corner, rock in a hard place. And I think there's going to be an escalation where Iran does close the strait there in Middle East. And we get the Strait of Hormuz to close, and we do see a spike in oil, and everything will roll like I've talked about for a long time. We're at Group 1 Gavin again. He says, did Pascal confirm that they are buying XRP at very low prices? This would explain the lack of price movement for some people, even though they're purchasing for the ETF. Yeah, they're buying large tranches through dark pools and OTC, not across secondaries on the exchange. It's not low prices, it's just low fees. So it's not like they could buy XRP at a discount from somebody else. Whatever the price is on the market is what the price is on the market. Unless they had pre-allocated contracts they had negotiated with Ripple for a certain amount of the escrow release or early on, then in those circumstances, maybe you would see a lower price. I don't think that's the case. I think that they've had to purchase it at the current price. But maybe there's some strategic partnerships where some of that was gifted to them, or anyway, yeah, to your point though, it would be through dark pools and OTC, and whatever additional they need that's beyond the scope of what they could get there, they would go to the secondary market on exchanges for. And again, that's kind of like why I think you're going to see a supply shock. Eventually the dark pools and the OTC will run out, and it seems like the exchanges are orchestrating a supply shock type situation where there's just not going to be much available for purchase there when everybody needs it. Trey says, hey Jake, is it true about the amount of XRP being pulled off exchanges, 5 to 15 billion XRP from what I've seen over the social media? If so, wouldn't that cause a supply shock? Appreciate all that you do. Absolutely. So I'll say this. When I sat down and had the pleasure of having whiskey with Simon at Uphold a few years ago, August of 23. Yeah, it's almost 2 years ago. At the first on XDC event, we sponsored that, went down there and spoke, and got in front of a lot of people, and we had the privilege of meeting a lot of other sponsors, which happened to be Uphold. And he asked me how much I thought was on exchanges and in retail's hands. And at the time, I thought somewhere between 5 and 6 billion. And he said, yeah, that's about right. And I'm like, well, why did you ask me if you knew the answer? Yeah. But that was 2 years ago. We have seen a substantial amount of XRP released onto exchanges since then. We've obviously seen a lot of more wallets created. We've got close to 7 million wallets on the XRPL now. At that time, I think there was somewhere around 4 million wallets. So there's obviously a lot more retail that's entered the market at this point. So maybe that number has expanded a little bit since then, probably to the higher side, around 6 billion. But I still think that that's about it. That's available between all the exchanges and retail. And if the exchanges want to keep the XRP that they have to be able to transact value at scale in a liquidity crisis, if Tether were to have problems or issues and they needed to pivot, they're not going to give it up. And they're probably going to take your XRP if it's on an exchange, because it'll be systemically important for them. And you're a creditor, and they will just give you your cash back. So if you don't want that to happen, I would get your stuff off of an exchange. And yeah, I think it's far less than people realize. I think it's somewhere less than 2 billion XRP available on exchanges today for purchase. We got Hunter. He says, you seem tired. People have told me that today. My business partner's like, you seem tired all week. And I am. Hadn't been getting as much sleep. He said, we understand a week off. Your team is top notch. Appreciate it, man. Yeah. I run wide open all the time. I probably need to take a breather and pull it back a little bit, maybe take a day off. But you know, like I've talked about before, you only get so many. I've got to be like specific about my words here. Fat pitches with a P in your lifetime that you know you're going to knock out of the park, and you want to swing as hard as you can at those. And so that's what I've been doing. I've been, you know, candidly run myself ragged a lot of the time. My team does too, because we know the opportunity cost if we don't, and we want to make sure that we're out in front and continue to execute at a high level and continue to backfill resources as we can. And so, yeah, sorry if I don't quite have the that I normally do on here, but I do appreciate you guys hanging out with me and the support and the good questions. And I probably will wrap it up a little early and try to get a little more shut-eye than I normally do. So thank you for the super chat. We got James. He says, hey, Jake, after price appreciation, will it be 1 million or 1.1 million worth of XRP to onboard with DWP? I've heard both in the mastermind. Thanks. Can't wait to onboard. We'll probably do the 1.1, James. And there's a reason for that. So for compliance, in order for us to charge performance fees on a client's account, they do need to be a qualified client. And the qualifications to be a qualified client for an RIA here in the US is that they have at least 1.1 million worth of digital assets with that RIA, or they have a total of 2.2 million in total net worth, including the assets that the RIA manages. So, yeah, it'll probably be the 1.1. And again, that'll only be for people in the mastermind. So if you're outside the mastermind, that limit's going to be significantly higher. It'll probably be 20 million. Again, just to make sure that we take care of the people there in the group. And we also, we just don't want to run ourselves ragged. For providing that to everybody, we're going to be inundated. Not that we won't be with the people in the mastermind. There's still going to be a lot of people in the mastermind we want to help. So if that's something that you are thinking about, you want to make sure that you're able to participate with Digital Wealth Partners, and you're uncertain if you're going to be north of 20 million on the other side of price appreciation, and you want to lock that in and make sure you have that capability, I would encourage you to join the mastermind. Go to beyondbroke.com and use the code BeyondBroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO, get you a free month there in the group. And again, the minimum on the other side of a $10 XRP will be 1.1 million. But I think it's going to go quickly past $10, and maybe, somewhere in the 3-digit range when it starts to run here. And again, there's going to be a lot of people that disagree with that, and that's okay. I don't mind being the odd man out, especially when I think I'm going to be right. We got Fly Fishing Jeremy. What's up, man? He says, Jake, how much safer are my assets on Uphold Vault compared to just Uphold? How much better is Decent than Uphold Vault? Like, join, subscribe to the mastermind. Join the mastermind. Sean Sides replied to my message in the mastermind chat. Very cool. I would say Uphold, I don't think you're going to have a problem on Uphold. However, you are a creditor of Uphold. They own your assets. They're pooled. They're not separated. They're not insured. They're not segregated. They're not bankruptcy remote. So you are exposed to those risks if you have your assets on Uphold. You're also exposed to the fact that their UI and computers might go down during a price rise when there's a lot of volume on their website. We've seen that happen in the past. It happens every time for Coinbase. Even though they know that they're going to get a large volume, they haven't upgraded their infrastructure to be able to not have that happen, or they're orchestrating it on purpose to be able to trade before you can. Don't know which one it is. So same thing for Uphold. Your assets are always going to be safer in a cold wallet versus on an exchange, period. Uphold Vault is a great solution. I think that that's great because they hold the third key. They can't actually issue any transactions, but if you lost your keys for whatever reason, they can regenerate them. They can also help your family regenerate them if, God forbid, something happens to you. So I think it's a good value add there at Uphold. I prefer Decent to any of it. Depends on whether you want to pay a monthly fee or you have a large breadth of assets. If you just had XRP, Uphold Vault's probably the same as Decent. But if you had more assets, I think Uphold Vault will do Bitcoin and XRP now, but it's pretty limited in the scope of what it can provide, whereas Decent's pretty robust in how many assets you can put on there. So again, that's just kind of a high level. Not to say one's better than the other. Anything's better than an exchange. Institutional custody would be best. And again, when I say institutional custody, it's not Caleb and Brown. They do use Fireblocks. So not ragging on Caleb and Brown. I think that they're better than most people. However, they are not licensed as a financial services provider there in Australia. They are not bankruptcy remote. You are a creditor of Caleb and Brown. They've never had an issue. They do state that they back assets one-to-one. They do have audits that they run, which again, they set a better standard than almost all the other exchanges, but they are still a brokerage, and you are a creditor. Your assets are segregated on their platform, which is good. And apparently they do have some type of insurance there. And that's recent. So happy to hear that they have something. In the beginning, they just relied on Fireblocks, and they have insurance on their infrastructure, but not the assets. From what I understand, they have assets. They have insurance on fraud. So like if somebody internally were to steal from you, there's insurance on that. I don't know if there's additional crime insurance and what other protections are in that policy. They wouldn't share that with me. So we stopped our affiliation with Caleb and Brown. I don't know. We have real institutional custody where we have an OCC federally chartered bank that provides institutional custody, segregated, bankruptcy remote, insured up to $100 million. We have ways to be able to generate returns on the XRP and other digital assets that people participate in that with us at the RIA. We help you with corporate structures and tax filings and all the other stuff that you would want. Aside from just somebody you can call to execute a transaction, we're also substantially cheaper than Caleb and Brown when you want to sell something. They're going to charge you 3.5%. We charge you 20 basis points. We have an AUM fee that they don't have. So there's that. There is an additional cost there. Just full disclosure. And some people may not want to pay that monthly for the additional benefits that we provide. And I completely understand that. But we are the cheapest when it comes to transactions, irrespective of the amount. We're 20 basis points. Let's say you want to sell $1 million. This is the difference. You sell $1 million on Caleb and Brown, they're going to hit you with 3.5%. You might be able to negotiate it lower. I'm not affiliated with them anymore, so I can tell you that. They will work with you if you want to negotiate that down. They're not going to like that I said that, but too bad. I would, if I were you, negotiate that down if you're doing $1 million plus. But they're going to try to hit you with 3.5%, which is $35,000 on $1 million transaction. We're only going to charge you $2,000. And we don't make any of that. That's all Anchorage. But it is the lowest cost for purchase or sale, and there's no spread. So it's just 20 basis points on the total for the transaction. This person says, after the LLC and parallel markets info is done, I'm supposed to upload XRP onto securitize.io. Yeah, you'll receive funding instructions from Securitize. They're our partner. They provide our TAMP, which is a turnkey asset management platform for digital wealth partners that allows us to integrate with Coinbase, Gemini, and Anchorage to be able to provide a full scope and view of your assets on those platforms. We've got other people that upload their Coinbase account, and you can see an aggregated view there in Securitize if you wanted to do that. So this person says, with Decent, what if I pass? How does my wife or child get into Thumbprint? They have a code also that you can write down, and it's like a 4 or 6 digit code that your wife or your spouse would be able to use to get into the wallet there, royalty products, because that's a good concern. We've got Armando. What's up, man? He says, hey, amigo, reverse carry trade, carry before end of June. Coming down to the wire here for the end of June, but I do think so. Yeah, I think things could move quickly. We just need a spike in oil. It wouldn't take much. We've got Bucks 0341 says, other than oil, Fed lowering interest rates, and Bank of Japan interest rates rise would also kick the reverse carry trade. Correct. Yeah, any of those circumstances should start to see things unwind. We got Armani. What's up, man? He says, Jake, what's up? Give me a scenario how I can borrow, use my XRP as collateral, and if I'm paying back using yield, basically my asset's working to put itself pay back the loan. Does the LLC do that? That's the dream, Armani. That's what we're working on. I want this to work like a HELOC that you have on a house that's rented out, where somebody makes the payments every month for you, and the additional payment goes toward the interest on the loan, and it just pays itself off over time. We're working on products right now that would work in that capacity. We haven't found somebody that's willing to lend against XRP that's being used in a strategy, kind of like liquid staking. I know Aquaman was talking about that today. Love Aquaman, but I can tell you, after working with the banks and institutions, we're a long time away from liquid staking for XRP, probably a year and a half at a minimum. And if I have my way, then we will be the first people that have it, believe me. But it's not anywhere close to as easy as he made it sound on that video. Love him. God love him. But if you're going to do it in a regulatory compliant way, it becomes much more cumbersome than just a DeFi application. Now, you could do it in a DeFi application. Maybe you can use Flare to do liquid staking. I talked to Hugo about that. You have counterparty risk there, though. You're putting up your asset inside of a smart contract. If somebody hacks that smart contract, or something goes south, those assets are gone, and there's not insurance on that. So how risky do you want to be? How progressive do you want to be? What's your time horizon? What's your risk tolerance? There's a lot of components here as to which one you would do. And again, we want to work with all this DeFi stuff at Digital Wealth Partners, but do it in a very set a standard in the industry for how it looks in an institutional setting. And that takes a little bit more time. But it will be possible. It will be done, and we will have financial products that work exactly like you're talking about there, Armani. Not financial advice. If they start that way, you know what they're asking. Hypothetically, would you sell your XRP now, pay capital gains, then immediately buy the XRP ETF in a tax-free investment account? Absolutely not. I would not do that. I can't give you financial advice. Sorry. I'll give you pros and cons. Okay. A direct allocation to this asset, I think, is going to have much more utility over the long term than owning it through a derivative like an ETF. Especially when those ETFs don't redeem in kind. Having an allocation is great. You have exposure to it, but owning the asset itself, it's kind of like owning paper gold or owning real gold. Like, which one do you really want? I want the real gold. I'm not owning paper gold. I don't trust other people, lying about the reserves that they have, or rehypothecating it, or taking leverage against my stuff. I don't want any of that. And so I would rather just own it outright, even if it meant paying additional taxes later on, which I don't think you'll have to. I think there'll be a lot of benefits for people that are holding XRP. This isn't something that I personally wouldn't do that, hypothetically. Not financial advice. We've got X Stark Jr. says, hey, Jake, I've been following you and your knowledge on these theories the past year. My question is, can you put your tinfoil hat on again and tell us about the Trump book you mentioned last past? Yeah. So if you look back at 1894, I think was the year that it was written, it's called The Adventures of Baron Trump. I don't remember who the author was, but it's a trilogy. It's a 3-book series. And the last book in that series is called The Last President. And it talks about Barron Trump and his, adventures and working with Russia. Anyway, very interesting. That Trump's child is, named Barron. And then you got, his uncle John was who went back and looked through Tesla's stuff after he died and reported that there was nothing of substance there to the U.S. government, but 6 of the 18 trunks went missing and didn't make it back to Europe. So just, yeah. And there was, speculation that Tesla had figured out time travel, and had a death ray and a bunch of other stuff. He had patents and inventions on for frequencies and vibration. So anyway, there you go. That, I don't know if that's where you wanted me to go with that or not, but yeah, I like I said, entertain all that stuff, but it's not where I spend the majority of my time. Gen X Crypto says, "Hey Jake, I joined the Mastermind about 30 days ago and got my LLC onboarded to DWP. Do we go through you to work with Aaron Young? Saw your interview with him. Very interested. Just reach out to info@digitalfamilyoffice.io, and we'll get you connected if you have an LLC through us and you do want to participate with them. Over time, we'll roll that out for everybody, but it's got to be done in phases." We already went over this one. Let's see here. We got Shay. She says, "What's up, Jake?" It may be a he. Sorry, don't want to be discriminatory. Hope you sport that hat I gave you at Thursday. Oh, it is a he. How are you, sir? Gave you at Thursday night's meetup in Vegas. What's your opinion on XRP established dialogue with the Fed in 2013 that matured in 2015 with a seat at the Fed table? Supposedly Jerome Powell's going to be removed here in the near future. We'll see if that takes place or not. I've got the hats upstairs, brother. I want to say thank you for the hats. If you guys need cool XRP hats, you should reach out to Shay. He's got some really cool stuff. Thank you for going through all the chats and answering all the questions. Do you also think quantum computing will crack BTC? I do. It's exactly what I think is going to happen. We're already at an hour and a half, so I'm going to lightning round these last ones. I'm sorry if I am short. We got TV for XRP. They say, Jake, the domino theory comes to fruition. XRP's infrastructure, TPS, etc., ready for that type of inflow. Yeah, they do. They have batch payments as an amendment on the XRPL right now. So if batch payments were to pass on the XRPL, the throughput would upgrade substantially. You also have payment channels, and if they were to roll out a implicit or explicit subnet on the mainnet of the XRPL, it could scale to infinite number of transactions. I talked with Matt Hamilton about that. He used to be head of development there at Ripple and currently lives in Barbados. He's not everybody's favorite person, but I'm always respectful of other people. Again, like I talked about at the beginning of this, I'm happy to debate people as long as it maintains the integrity of the conversation and is respectful. As soon as the conversation degrades or people get frustrated and start name calling or, just try to tear the other person down because of their physical appearance or something outside of what the constraints of the conversation are, I just immediately unplug and remove myself. There's no point in continuing with that conversation with the individual. So Matt has always been respectful to me, and I've always been respectful to him. And it doesn't always happen with other people, but that was what he stated needed to happen in order for the TPS to scale to, the levels that we want to see for the throughput to be able to, compete with MasterCard and Visa and the other stuff that would be required. We got Jay Lube. Excuse me. He said, Mr. Legends. Mr. Legend. With the legend deal, man. For those that have between 50 and 100K, who do you recommend institutional custody? Since you only take 100K or more, and could they still take advantage of your deals? We have dropped the threshold down to 50,000 3 separate times over the last 6 months. The last offer ended earlier this month on the 17th. So I'm sorry if you're just now seeing the channel and missed that opportunity. That is the last time we will ever run a 50,000 XRP promotion. I cannot continue to do it according to my compliance officer. So unfortunately, there are no options. There are no institutional custody options that meet the same level of institutional custody that we provide. Because again, I'll say this: my definition of institutional custody is I have a very high standard for this, whereas other people say, "Oh, well, we use Fireblocks, or we use Medico, or we use Copper." Copper and Medico would actually be better suited for institutional custody because they use hardware security modules to hold the sharded keys versus MPCs, which is what Fireblocks uses, which is not up to the standard of IPFS here in the US for what is required for a qualified custodian. So anybody that says they use Fireblocks, just know that it's like second best in class for institutional custody providers. Again, I want segregated bankruptcy remote insured institutional custody. Caleb and Brown meets one of those, well, maybe two of those prongs if they do have some insurance now. So that would probably be what I'd recommend, would be maybe Caleb and Brown until your assets appreciate and you could work with us. Again, we're no longer affiliated with them, but they do have, as far as the exchanges and brokers go, they're the highest standard out there for that. We have a significantly higher standard that we operate under, but again, our minimums are a bit higher, and our fees to work with us on a monthly basis are higher. We offer cheaper, purchasing and selling, offset that some. Caleb and Brown makes their money on the exchange when you swap it for something else. Potato, people have to make money in order to operate a business, pay their employees and pay for the infrastructure and their partners and all the stuff. But maybe that's what I'd recommend. Aside from a cold wallet, I like Decent. If you did want to hold it somewhere that made you feel warm and fuzzy or warm and fuzzier, maybe Caleb and Brown could fill that gap. We got Adam. He says, is DAG going to offer anything for smaller back holders, 1,000 to 50,000 XRP in the future, with or without heavy price appreciation? Without any heavy price appreciation, no. We will only continue to raise costs and also raise minimums as we continue to grow. We are a multifamily office. Just at our core, that's who we work with. That's where we've positioned ourselves in the market. That's what we do. So the long-term intention is to work with people with $20 million or more. Not to say that people that have 1,000 to 50,000 XRP won't have $20 million or more. They will, in my personal opinion. They just don't today. And I feel bad, honestly, taking an AUM fee on, it just doesn't economically make sense to take any less than a couple $100,000 at like a bare minimum for institutional custody. It doesn't make sense for us. There's not the fees aren't meaningful enough for what we're providing. And again, I'm not belittling anybody. I'm just literally talking about the economics of the business and our partners and their costs and everything that's involved. So as assets appreciate, absolutely, we definitely want to work with all of the XRP family and provide all of the things that we have. But at the current value for the asset, which I don't think it's going to be here much longer, it just doesn't make sense for either party, really. But as things appreciate, absolutely, we definitely want to work with everybody that's going to be north of 1.1 million if you're in the mastermind, and 20 million if you decide not to join the mastermind. couple more super chats here, and then we're going to wrap it up for tonight. We got Faso. Oh man, Gregoros is what we're going to call it. Legend, what's up? Cheer up. We love you. Question: can you arrange an interview with David Schwartz? You are invited to Greece, regardless of XRP. Appreciate it, man. We talked about this in the mastermind the other day. I could absolutely get an interview with David Schwartz or Brad or Chris or Monica or other people at Ripple. It needs to be meaningful though. Like, I'm not going to waste their time. The one thing I value most is my time. I don't trade it for, I put $1, and this is going to sound like egotistical, but when I'm thinking about how I'm spending my time, if I'm not generating at least $10,000 in value for that hour, if I wouldn't pay $10,000 for that hour, it's not valuable. It's not high enough value for me. That's where I try to spend my time. Inevitably, I end up doing lower value tasks. We have to, in order to make sure the business maintains its integrity and things happen and everything moves forward. But that's where I try to spend my time and how much I value it. So I look at other people the same way. David Schwartz's time's worth at least $10,000 an hour, if not more. Brad's the same way. And so unless I'm bringing them pretty significant value and I have something really important to talk about with them that's going to be mutually synergistic for our brand or partnership or whatever it may be for them, providing them value that's going to generate a return, I'm not going to waste their time. So there might be something in the near future that would benefit both of us, for me having David on or somebody else from Ripple, but that hasn't materialized yet. So in the instance that it does, I might move forward in that area, but until then, I'm not going to waste anybody else's time because I hate when people waste mine. Jeremiah says, you mentioned supply shock equating to price increase post-case decision. Not necessarily post-case decision, but I do think that it'll exacerbate that with Judge Torres not removing the injunction. Before you mentioned that would XRP indicated as a security, again, I think you're going to see price movement before the case is over, but I think that'll be catalyzed by a ruling from the judge post some price appreciation that states that the injunction is maintained and that Ripple cannot sell to institutions, and you'll get an even further exacerbation of the supply shock. It's a good point that you make there, though. We got we got Chase. He says, will transferring XRP to USDC ever not be taxable? Possibly if they remove capital gains on XRP. Prod says, could the Strait still close, Tether collapsing? Yes, I still think that my thesis will play out. Jeff, thank you for the super chat. He says, when a bank makes a cross-border transaction in XRP, will that be a taxable transaction? If not, why? Again, I think we're going to get regulation globally that XRP is a capital asset. It is not a capital asset, but is a currency or a commodity, and has special tax treatment around it in order to be able to facilitate these transactions. Because otherwise, you're exactly right, it becomes problematic. Fishing for Crypto says, thank you for all that you do for the community. Absolutely, man. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. I'm super grateful. Can you explain how private placement life insurance works and how we can take advantage of it? I have a full video that I went through everything for private placement life insurance for anybody that had 500,000 XRP or more. If you want to email info@digitalfamilyoffice and ask for that video, the 500K XRP webinar, happy to share that with you, and it runs through everything for private placement. We got Nick. He says, hi, fearless crypto legend. It's not that I'm fearless, and I'll say this. Some of the best decisions I've ever made in my life, I was queasy, I felt horrible, I was scared, and I did it anyway. And you may come across that in your life. I guarantee that you will. You'll have something that seems absolutely awful, but you want to do it, and you know it's the right thing to do, but you're scared to do it, and then you have to do it anyway. And that is what courage is the ability to act in the face of fear as though you were fearless. So it's not that I'm not scared. There's lots of stuff that frightens me, but I move forward, move through it anyway. And the more you do that, the better you get at it. I would say that also. Shout out for another whiskey. When do you think we could see XRP hitting $20? ETFs, waiting on those ETFs, waiting on BlackRock. Try to get through all the super chats here before we wrap it up tonight. We've got Mikhail Jordan. What's up, man? He says, yo, Jake, my guy, the man, the myth, the legend. What's good? What's going on, brother? When the ETFs get approved, do you think they'll approve all at once? And if that happens, could it lead to a supply shortage? Yeah, I think that is exactly what orchestrates the supply shock. And I do think that they will approve them all at once, because if the SEC approves one before they approve others, it shows favoritism. And it's the same reason that they approved all of the Bitcoin ETFs at the same exact time. So I do think that that will be orchestrated in that manner. And I appreciate your super chat. We got Justin Kincaid. What's up, man? He says, hey, Jake, if I upgrade to Carbon 1 and put 80K worth of XRP, do y'all put my money in escrow to pay the payment in escrow? Like that was mentioned last week, worth doing a loan to buy more XRP. So you do need to be Carbon 1. It's not us. We have a partner. So Arch Lending is who we partner with for the XRP loans. You won't be able to access XRP loans if you just go to their website. You have to do it through our partnership, which is pretty cool. And yeah, as long as you have an LLC, you could borrow against that 80,000 XRP, $80,000 worth if you needed to get a loan for something else. I do not condone leveraging your XRP to buy more XRP, even though I've done it in the past. It's not something that I would advise people to do. You do you. You make your own financial decisions. If that's something you're interested in, then awesome. We can help you accomplish it. But again, it's not anything that we advise people do. So just reach out there in the community, and they will help you if you want to take advantage of that and those partnerships. Got Fishing for Crypto again. Appreciate you. He says, thank you for you do for all the community. Super grateful. Oh, we went over this one. Again, just email me. Well, not me, but info@digitalfamilyoffice.io and ask for the 500K webinar, and they'll give it to you, and you can watch everything to do with private placement insurance, which is one of the fantastic tools that you'll have access to when you guys are billionaires. Sean Sides says, with all the talk from TA about charts and Bollinger Bands and mirroring, blah, 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 from 2017, 2018, at the end of this year, winds down, just makes me feel like an imminent God candle is right around the corner. Let's go. I agree. That's exactly how I feel, Sean. Maybe closer than you think. Maybe closer than you think. Michael says, and I want to say this too. I haven't mentioned this on this one. But we are going to raise the prices for the mastermind, and we're going to lock it down for 30 days on the other side of price appreciation. So if you want to get in now, if you want to lock in the prices, if you want to be part of the community and not have to worry, I would go ahead and do that. Again, I hate being that guy, but I would feel bad if I didn't tell you that, because I don't think it's going to be that much longer till a $10 XRP. But we are going to lock it down. And it's going to be 30 days, and it's only the people that are in there that keep the same pricing. On the other side of price appreciation, it'll be $1,000 a month minimum to participate there in the mastermind. So if you want to lock it in, go ahead and go to beyondbroke.com and use the code beyondbroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO is the code. What are we locking down new here? If you want to be a part of the community that has over 3,500 people in it for learning about digital assets, financial education, business resources, then I would go ahead and lock it in before price appreciation on XRP happens. I think it is going to go to $10 sooner than later. And we will be halting all of the current pricing and again, locking it down for 30 days. Michael says, beginner program, if is 3K enough to start, new to crypto stocks, ETFs on Robinhood, how do I get them off? Where should I go to start with you? The Mastermind, brother. I hate to jump on that bandwagon, but you're going to have 3,500 other people that have already been through all this and like made all the mistakes, sent their stuff to the wrong place, got fished, got used stuff on the wrong exchange, got raked for fees. All of the answers are there in that community. It's super simple. You just ask something in the chat and you're going to have 5 or 10 people come back and tell you and help you. That is the value of the Mastermind. People that are, 3, 4, 5, 6 steps just right ahead of you in your journey, being able to give you good advice and keep you from, having the same pitfalls or problems that they did. And with 3,500 people in there, it's highly unlikely that they're not going to know exactly the position that you're in. Somebody in there is going to be able to provide you fantastic context and good advice around stuff. May not be advice, friendly guidance would be what I would say. When Beyond Broke Mastermind swag? We've given out shirts and coffee mugs at the last 5 events. So if you go to the events, then you get swag. We've got, hey Jake, thanks for all that you do. Tangem wallet with Tangem app. Okay. Yeah, I like Tangem. They do a good job. I like I'm not wearing a ring, but somebody was asking me if I had a Tangem ring the other night. It's an Aura ring that I had on, but I like the Tangem ring too. I think that's cool. Dennis says, I've been of the mind recently that XRP escrow will be bought by the government and the IMF and priced to facilitate global money transfers. What do you think? I would agree. My phone just died, so we lost TikTok. I normally plug it in, but I didn't tonight. Kelly, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate you. I think we got a couple more here, and then we're going to wrap it up and lock it down for tonight. We've got Robert Russell. What's going on, man? He says, is there a discount code for the Mastermind? Yes. Right up at the top here, going across the top of the screen here on YouTube. If you go to beyondbroke.com, you can use the code right here. BeyondBroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO gets you a free month there in Carbon One or Social. We do more in-person events than any other community, especially in the XRP community, but pretty much all crypto that I'm aware of also. Again, I want people to feel like, wow, I would pay a lot more for this. We try to provide a ton of value in there. Do you believe in 4-year cycles will end? I do for certain assets. Anything that's utility driven, I think will end up having a different cycle or frequency than the rest of the market. So here it is again one last time. If you do want to be a participant in the Mastermind, we would love to have you. Lock it in now before we see a $10 XRP, because I think it's pretty close here on the horizon with everything that's ready to play out. All the dominoes are in place. The other thing I'll say here, and I haven't said this publicly before, is I was given the nod on the domino theory by a few people. I won't say any specifics around who, but that's what gives me a lot of confidence in coming out here and talking about it on a regular basis and continuing to iterate my thesis and continue to put that out. The nods that I got were from people that would know. And again, I'm not going to just come out here and run my mouth for no reason and risk my credibility in the firm. So if you do want to set up an LLC, I didn't go over all the benefits tonight, but there are a lot of benefits to setting up an LLC for your digital assets. If you want to work with us to do that, you can just go to digitalfamilyoffice.io, services, and then LLC entity formation. You can use the code 50OFF, 50OFFDAGLLC. They get you everything that you need to be able to set up your holding corporation there in Wyoming to manage your alternative investments with a strategic investment in crypto is the way that we position it, to be able to get all of the benefits you would from an LLC with none of the downside, and your ability to set up a bank account and all the other fun stuff that we can help you do. So again, if that's interesting you can use the code 50OFF, 50OFFDAGLLC. Get you everything you would possibly need end-to-end done for you on the LLC for your digital assets. Appreciate Living Legacy. Shout out to you, Mike. He helps a lot of people with the loans there in the Mastermind. So again, if you need a loan against your XRP, you can join Carbon One there in the group for free with the code. And if you set up the Wyoming LLC, you can borrow against any amount of XRP with our partners at Arch Lending. So Jeffrey, appreciate you, the kind words for the hair. It's coming in good. I've been about a year, last week, a year since I got my hair transplant. So if you guys are interested in that, you can go check out, it's on the channel. We went to Turkey to get the hair transplant done, did a full video vlog for that. We also have a vlog out for Vegas and my time when I went to FinTech TV and was at the New York Stock Exchange and did the interviews there, in addition to all the podcasts and Bradley and everything there while we were in Vegas. So with that, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. I hope you guys have a wonderful week, wonderful weekend. We will see you guys next Monday, unless you're in the Mastermind, and we'll catch you guys Saturday morning at 9 a.m. for the town hall, where we've had like 600 people the last couple weeks there in the town hall, which is just fantastic. So wish you guys a wonderful end of your week, a wonderful weekend, and we will see you guys on the next one.